Good evening, everybody. I'd just like to say thank you, Scott, for that wonderful introduction. I also like to thank Jay and the Europe team for having me here today. I'm really honored to be here, and this is actually my third Europe graduation. And I was telling Jenny from Wells Fargo earlier that the first one I wasn't invited, I kind of snuck in, right? And so the energy, the inspirational things that go on with Europe have drawn me to be a more active participant with Europe. And actually, I was really honored when I found out I was going to be a keynote speaker today. Now, one of the things I like to start my speech with is the fact that I do have a name that happens to be famous right now, especially with the young folks, right? I just want you all to know I had it first, and I'm a little bit taller and a little bit wider, right? So I just want to get that out of the way, right? So as I provide the brief speech today, or I like to call it a discussion, I wanted to also give thanks to some of the folks at Kaiser Permanente that got me involved. Dick Daniels, one of our senior vice presidents at Kaiser Permanente, he introduced me to Europe 3 years ago, and unfortunately he couldn't be here today, but he has been an advocate in spreading the good word about Europe throughout Kaiser Permanente. We also talked about having Europe in Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Atlanta, and I'd like to just quickly highlight the 4 Kaiser Permanente Bay Area Classics graduates. Laxmi De La Pena, Laxmi. Now, I hope I get this right. Feiku Dunson, Feiku. Okay. Alan Uchida, and Tisha Claiborne. Great. Thanks. And I'd also like to have a round of applause for the parents, the guardians, the friends, and the Europe staff who were so instrumental in these young people being here today. Okay. So, my brief conversation today, I'm going to talk a little bit about my Europe experience in my life and why this means a lot to me. And 3 things in my life I think relate very well to the Europe graduates, and they are hard work, perseverance, and the power of positive thinking. Now, these aren't new concepts. They've been around for a very long time. And as a young person like you, I heard my parents, mentors, others talk about those 3 concepts, but I never really understood what they were talking about. I would listen, I would act like I was listening, and I certainly always thought I knew exactly what was going on and nobody could tell me otherwise. But as I got older, not to say that I'm that old, I learned how important these 3 concepts were, not only in my career but also in my life. One of the things that wasn't mentioned during the introduction is that I am born and raised in East Baltimore. I'm one of 4 kids. My dad was a steel worker. My mom was a telephone operator / seamstress. And for those people who don't know what that is, that's a dressmaker, right? She repaired clothes. My parents have always been my heroes. They're no longer here, but they still are. And in my early years, we experienced an economic downturn of our own. I watched my parents struggle mightily to make ends meet and support the 4 of us. I remember the food stamps, I remember the government cheese, and to this day, I still don't understand why that stuff would not melt. Right? You try to make a grilled cheese sandwich, just wasn't working for me. Things eventually got better because my father taught me that tough times don't last, tough people do. Right? You can relate, right? And as we got through those tough times, my parents showed me and my brothers what the power of positive thinking, hard work, and perseverance were really all about. My own Europe started during my high school career. And back in Baltimore City, back in those days, they had a program for after-school jobs. And as part of the after-school job program, you had mentors that would help you as part of your job to learn how to work in a corporate environment, how to speak correctly, how to dress, how to act, how to understand that even when things get hard and they get difficult, you have to maintain that positive attitude. They taught us what it meant to persevere, what it means to work hard each and every day, and to have a positive outlook on life. So after experiencing that, I remember having my first internship right before I went to college, senior in high school. It was with an engineering company called Bendix Environmental. Doesn't exist today. But I remember about that experience, as I remember going to work and going to work in a tie, and the pride that I felt that I was on my way, that I had overcome what everybody said I couldn't do, and I was on my way to getting there. So the perseverance, the hard work, and the positive attitude will get you a lot farther in life than anything else that I know of. Now I transition to today, and I want to talk about one of your alumni. He is a graduate of the 2011 class of Europe, and his name is Willie Wolves. Willie was round of applause for Willie. All right? He was an internship working with us at Kaiser Permanente, and one of the things I love to do with the interns, I didn't get a chance to do as much last year, is I love to take them to lunch. Because as a business person, a lot of things get done at lunch. And understanding how to communicate and get ideas across and maybe even introduce yourself in a lunch meeting where it's casual and informal is a really important thing. And one of the things that I really enjoyed is after Willie graduated, he called me up and said, "Hey, Mr. Hart, I want to take you to lunch," right? And I could hear the pride in his voice when he said, "And I'm going to pay for it," all right? I thought that was really cool, right? So during that lunch meeting, we got a chance to talk about how he persevered through Europe. He talked about how he wanted to be a better father for his son. He talked about putting in the hard work so that he could continue to achieve his goals. And he also talked about the pride that he felt and the positive outlook that he had on life every single day when he dropped his kid off at school, and then he got on the bus with his tie on, and he went to work in San Francisco's financial district. So I don't know about you, but that's what I think Europe is all about. There are going to be challenges throughout your life. Things aren't always going to go well. But each one of you will have a similar story to Willie. And one of the things you need to know as you progress through your career is that as you go forward, you have to find a way to persevere. You have to work hard every single day. Don't just do what you're told to do. Do more than what you're asked to do. Learn to always have a positive outlook. I know it's difficult with the economic downturn, with some of the backgrounds you come from. It's hard, but I'm here to show you that you can do it. I also want you to understand that as graduates of Year Up, you already have the foundations to be successful for the rest of your lives. Absolutely. You also need to know that this is only the beginning, a very bright and great beginning, and that you all have greatness within you. I see you, and I think the leaders here see you as our future. And I foresee the day when one of you will be standing here in the future providing the keynote address to future Year Up leaders. So, in closing, I'd like to borrow a closing statement from our Kaiser Permanente chairman and CEO, George Halverson. At the end of his letters, every week that he writes to us at Kaiser Permanente, he finishes with, "Be well and thrive." Thank you, guys.